This is my video for Indiegogo, trying to make some donations, trying to make some money. My plan is, it's pretty simple. A house that's quite cheap, it's got a rateable valuation of 150,000. That's New Zealand dollars. And it's just come up on the market. So I want to raise some money, see if I can raise some money to buy this house. My story is, I don't really have a story. I can tell you one thing though, I have suffered incredibly in life for a period of about 10 years. This is about my only claim really that I have. I suffered, I had this pain in my head and my neck, and it was almost like I had no place to lay my head or no place to rest my head. I would lie down at night and it would be always on, and it was a pain that was extreme. It was on the scale of a 1 to 10, it was probably a 10. And I was bearing with this pain for about every day for about 10 years. And it was extreme suffering. It was huge suffering. I have trouble telling people just don't understand how much I was suffering. They say go out and get a job and go and work and stuff, and it's like, oh my God, you have no idea. But that's just, I'm fine now. The pain's gone. I've got a bit of creaking in my neck or whatever, cracking in my neck, but it's like, I don't know what the pain was. The doctors couldn't find anything, or not that they tried too hard, and they didn't really believe me even. Some of the doctors didn't even believe me that I was in pain, That was the thing, but I was definitely in pain. And not just ordinary pain. I'm not talking like light pain, I'm talking extreme pain. I'm having trouble communicating ideas and things on this video. I'm going to make it quite a long one. I'm just going to ramble. I've got another thing. Here's my other thing that I did. Apart from pain, I did this while I was suffering. I suffered from about February 1999 till about 2008, and that was a period of about 9 to 10 years, 9.5, 10 years, and this suffering was every day. This was and it was extreme. And I believe because of the suffering, I just believe I deserve a rest, and I believe people say go and get a job. Well, I say, well, I've freaking earned a house or something, or a rest, or I don't know, just a house, like a place to call my own, and to alleviate some of the bills that I have that are associated with flooding and things like that. But oh no, I lost my place. You can tell I'm not too bright, but that's not important. I guess one of the important things is, I suffered, and you got to believe how much I suffered. It's just so incredible, man. It was an amazing amount of suffering. And I'd like a house. I'd really like a house, my own house, because I rent at the moment. I pay $130 a week, New Zealand. If I had 150,000, 160,000 New Zealand dollars, I could buy this house, and that would probably, then I'd just have rates and insurance, which would probably be about $80. So I'd end up saving about $50 a week in costs per week. So that money would just go on extra food and probably electronics and things like that. It would just be extra additional money, like saving. I could be able to save. I can't save any money at the moment, but I'd be able to save some money. It would just free up money, and it would alleviate. I wouldn't have people coming through this house all the time, every 3 months, doing house inspections, which is kind of annoying. But yeah, here's another thing that I did. One day, I rang a radio station, a talkback radio station here in New Zealand. It was a nationwide talkback radio station during prime time. And during the phone call, I said, they don't think. I said, they don't think 3 times. I said, it was like, they don't think, they don't think, they don't think. And it's really hard. You've got to hear the phone call. And then, how did it go after that? It went, after the 3rd time of saying they don't think, I then yelled war, basically. It was like, they don't think, and I was like, war! And predicting this war, sort of thing, meaning there's going to be a war. And I was like, the thing. And I said, the thing a couple times, referring to the thing. This is how I knew there was going to be a war, you see. I don't know if this is making sense, but yeah, I was like, they don't think, war! the thing. And then I was like, and then I kind of did like a moan, kind of like predicting suffering. It was kind of like a word sort of predicting suffering. Like, and then I also voiced a gleam in my eye at the very end of the phone call. I think that's about all I had. That's about all I can remember. I haven't given a very good description. Honestly, you've got to hear the phone call. But this all happened about 2 days before September 11. I basically said, I made this phone call about 2 days before September 11. And I yelled war. I declared there was going to be a war. And I knew there was going to be suffering. And I was like, the thing. And I was like predicting, and that's how I knew I was predicting this war. And then 2 days later, after I made this phone call, the planes hit the buildings, and no one, no one took any notice of me at the time. But it's immediately after the planes hit the buildings, that's when I was sort of taken notice of. Yeah, but nothing really eventuated from it. I didn't make any money out of it or anything, and I can't get a copy of the phone call to put on YouTube. If I could get a copy of this phone call, I reckon that people, I'm too stupid to communicate effectively how important this phone call was. It's like the Mona Lisa, it's like art, or it's just like the Mona Lisa of phone calls. It's like you don't delete the Mona Lisa of phone call. This phone call still exists, even after 12, 13 years, I think it's 12 years now. 12 years for September 11. But yeah, I'll just turn the camera on for a sec. That's 8 minutes 25 of recording. But yeah. So 2 days before September 11, I made this phone call and I yelled war. I said, they don't think, and then I yelled war, and I said, the thing. And then I sort of gave a bit of a cry, and it was like I was voicing suffering. Suffering was going to happen. And then I also voiced a gleam in my eye. I voiced a gleam in my eye. And then 2 days later, the planes hit the buildings, and there was this big war. And then, like, a week after that, they were in Afghanistan, and there's a war happening, I don't know the truth. But yep. That's one of the only other claim to fame. But yeah, if I could get a copy of that phone call, I could probably make $1 million or more just from interviews, or even just from hits on YouTube. It would probably be a $20 million, $30 million, 30 million hit video. 20 million, 30 million hit video. People would be really sort of blown away by it, I believe. And I mean, I can't afford a lawyer to get a copy of this phone call. and no one really believes me that it's important, and no one really believes that it even exists. But it's like you don't delete the Mona Lisa you don't delete a great piece of art that is timed perfectly and just sets the tone and predicts suffering, and even it's predicts a war, predicts suffering. And I can also, I'll tell you this is what I also prepared for this. I also prepared for the phone call in a way. When I was a kid, I'll just open something on the computer because that'll help me remind it. But basically, oh no, I need to. My memory is so faint. It's like I've got Alzheimer's or something. Honestly, I have Alzheimer's. I just can't remember because it's been so long. It's been 12 years, and longer. This won't take long. Dun, 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 dun. Oh yeah, so it all started one day. Yeah, that's right. I was about 11, and the teacher from school. We went to school, and the teacher from school took us down to Solway Park, which is now known as Copthorne Resort, which is probably Marston's biggest, most flash hotel. And the local radio DJ was playing down there, and it was an AM radio station, or I think back then, or it might have been an FM radio station, I can't remember. But the DJ was going to go around each one of us and have us talk, and he asked me something, and I didn't even listen to what he said. I just thought he'd asked me what's your name, and I said my name, Darcy Lee, and he basically went on to the next kid, and because he'd asked me something, and I just ignored him, and I hadn't even heard what he'd said. So he'd asked me a question or something, and I just said my name, Darcy Lee. So it was kind of embarrassing for me. But later on, the kids were teasing me about it, and I thought to myself, well, how about I just read you this? This will be probably easier if I just read it to you. So it all started one day when I was about 11 years old. The local radio station in Marston, New Zealand, where I live, was doing a live broadcast from Solway Park, which is Marston's most flashy hotel. Our teacher grabbed 3 of us from school at 9 AM in the morning and took us to Solway Park. I was the first to go on the radio, and somehow I thought that the DJ was going to go around the 3 of us and ask us our names. Anyway, the DJ asked me a question, and I said my name, Darcy Lee. I never listened to the question to know what I should have said. Okay, so afterwards the kids were teasing me about it. The excuse I used was I was going to be around a terrorist attack, and I was going to go back to the radio station to stop it. By saying my name, I was storing power which I could later claim at the terrorist attack by returning to the radio station with my name being a trigger in people's subconscious sleepers. It was also like offering myself Darcy Lee, with me stating this is what's going to happen. So yeah, I basically, and this is all in my head. I thought it was all in my head. They were teasing me because I'd said my name over the radio station, and it was like that guy who I like turtles. That one, if you've seen that, I did that to the radio station. I said Darcy Lee, even though it asked me a question. Yeah, but they were teasing me, and so I came up with this terrorist attack all in my head. I was going to be around the terrorist attack, and I was going to return to the radio station, and around the terrorist, and I was going to be around the terrorist attack, and I was going to return to the radio station and be around this terrorist attack. Okay, so the next thing is, so when I was 12 years old, I went into this bird aviary that my dad had. I started to have this daydream with pictures, my insanity as a kid, I guess. In the end, the sum total of everything that I saw was that I was going to be around a terrorist attack, which I couldn't stop, but still had to try. But by being around the terrorist attack, it would be greater than stopping it, and was in effect stopping it. I still had to try and stop it. If you understood that, I'll read it again. I couldn't stop my insanity. I was going to be around. So basically, I had this daydream, and I was going to be around a terrorist attack, and I couldn't actually stop it, but I had to try and stop it. And this was about when I was 12. So from that day on, I practiced everything I could about terrorists and trying to stop an attack. Later on, say about 15, 16 years old, I discarded my daydream as just something that carried on about terrorists as to me, it was the most likely thing that would affect the world. I practiced, trained a lot, things with the mind, mostly thoughts, anything I could do with regards to war. I lived, trained myself for war my own style since 12. So I practiced relatively, like, just, as it came to me, I would practice. I would sometimes force myself, but only when I was, not very often at all, probably once or twice, but mostly when it just came to me as I lived my life, I would be thinking about these terrorist attacks and stuff like that, and I'd try and train for this war that I effectively saw was going to happen, or terrorist attack or a war. So that was my daydream as a bird Avery. So that was when I was 12. So when I was 11, there was a radio DJ. When I was 12, there was a bird Avery. Now when I was about 19, I was walking home one night and had got to the point when tasting the terrorists that this was going to be a final run on things that I could do, and then I had done everything I could do. It was kind of like I'd sort of thought everything I could think of, and it got to the point where I couldn't do much more. I prepared to the point where I couldn't do any more. A run is like refining and narrowing everything and being the best you can be, becoming more skilled. I don't know, a run. This was going to be my final run on terrorists, so as after this run there was nothing left to do. I've been practicing for years now, since I was about 11, so I was 19 now. And just as it came to me, just as things came to me, I would practice them, and it would be about war. I don't know, thoughts like just thinking, trying to repel terrorists with your mind, or trying to manipulate them, or control them, or know what they're doing, or something. Which basically opened up on the way. This is going to be my final run and head on the terrace, as after this there was nothing left to do, as I've been practicing for years now. On my way home I got into a fight which basically opened up total new areas in regards to the terrace, a mountain of work because of the fight. I had looked for the fight, I looked for it on my way home. In my mind I'd used my head and thought, well, I know there's someone out there who's wanting a fight, and they're going to be possibly on my way home. But anyway, I never completed the final run on this terrorist attack, and new avenues got opened up because of the fight. It gave me an insight into violence, I guess. This fight. But I had looked for it, but I still got into it. It was kind of my fault. I swore at them. I swore at these two chicks, and then they sort of called over this guy, and he beat me up. But they were like, I was dealing with this terrorist thing, and they were like, la-di-da. Just no weight on them at all. Just no cares in the world. And I was dealing with this heavy situation. So anyway, after about 2 months, so I've got a hit when I was 11, a hit when I was 12, and a hit when I was 19. It's about 2 months before 9/11, September 11, 2001. I was aged about 23, and I was at Westpac Stadium in Wellington, New Zealand. I used to get these lines come up in my eyesight sometimes, but they were always just random. This time, a big jet flew overhead, and lines came up and started following it. They had never done anything like this before. Because of the lines, I knew exactly what they meant by the way they were acting, and the first thing I said to myself was, what the beep do they want those for? They being bad guys. I spent 5 minutes trying to think of things that they would want them for, but didn't even come up with something that's like an ordinary hijacking. That was quite a major one on aircraft. So that was that I made a run on aircraft with these lines, started following this aircraft, and these lines coming up in my eyesight started following this aircraft, and it's like, what the F do they want those for? And I started thinking, forcing myself to think what they wanted these jets for. And I didn't even come up with anything like an ordinary hijacking or anything like that, but let alone crashing them into buildings or crashing planes into buildings. But it was like it was like, yeah. It was still a run on aircraft, and to see, it was about 2 months before September 11. Couple of times as I was growing up, I measured as from about 11 to 23, between the ages of 11 and 23. A couple of times I measured within myself, independent of everything I was doing. Question: event that will affect the world that I can have a play in. Answer: terrorist attack. Question: where? Answer: America. When I left school, I left because and said, screw this, here they come. I made many preparations in total regarding a terrorist attack, always America. I did many things and trained a lot. So basically in the end, after all this training, I ended up making that phone call where I yelled war, and then 2 days later the planes hit the buildings. But yeah, I can't get a copy of the phone call. It's pretty sad that I can't get a copy of the phone call to prove it, because that would just bring joy to people, and conspiracy and all sorts of emotions, a range of emotions. But yeah, other than that, yeah, I've suffered for 10 years. I rent a house. I could get a mortgage. If I had like 100 grand, I could probably get a 60 grand mortgage, maybe. Pay 60 grand would be what, $60 a week or something, for over 20 years, 25 years. I'm not sure of the actual exact numbers. Okay, I'll just turn around for a sec. That's 21 minutes. That'll do. I'll make that my project video. Thank you very much.